I'm Chris. I've seen like every episode of Star Trek 17 times.
This is Derek.
I think this is your first time for most of them.
Only once. Yep.
Only once. All right. So today we're doing Where No Man Has Gone Before, the first episode filmed of Star Trek as we know it.
Yep.
You ready to start?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, start.
Did you say engage?
What's that?
You should say engage now.
You can definitely see this is a remastered shot.
Yeah. So right out of the gate, like the shot of like that remastered shot is really nice. And then they didn't do the captain's log in the previous pilot.
No.
And then the whole iconic like otherworldly chest, like
there are rules for it.
Like there's so many iconic things. Like he's more green and like there's so many things that are happening just coming from like hearing all like the Star Trek culture and only ever seeing this once and just being bombarded with so many things that are quintessentially Star Trek right out of the gate is pretty wild.
Yeah, especially after the cage.
Yeah, and then like so this kind of I like how he's like I'm doing an illogical move to spite you, kind of thing. And then Spock's like, "You're a jerk, Kirk."
He is, but it sets up their dynamic immediately. I think how many seconds in are we?
Yeah, like we're what? Yeah, like we're like less than a minute in.
Yeah. I gush about Community on this. How within 30 seconds you know who every person on Community is.
Yeah,
and
so I like. Yeah, it sets up this kind of like number one, number two dynamic, and it even goes into details like Kirk's going to be like the brash, like emotional one. He's going to be like the logical, like one, and it's even a bit of a foreshadowing too, right? Because we're talking about like he does this brash move in chess, and Spock's like, "You're a jerk. That's a jerk move." But then that's kind of like a jerk move that kind of like helps them out later.
Yeah, That is the running conflict throughout the original series, especially the conflict between emotion and logic.
Yeah.
And this episode does not have Dr. McCoy. Later episodes do. Dr. McCoy is incredibly passionate.
Who's the guy in the background then? Who's him?
Scotty. That's Scotty.
Okay. Oh wait, Dr. McCoy is like the medical guy.
Yeah.
Okay. I mistook Dr. McCoy for being the engineer, but yes, Scotty, that makes sense.
So it's a 100% bona fide USDA or Scottish UK grade, whatever.
What's the federal agency in Scotland that regulates?
It's mostly not horse meat Scotty. So
mostly not
the real deal. So and I could go on. I need to find a good episode, probably Wolf in the Fold, where I'm just going to go on about Jimmy Doohan, the guy who plays Scotty.
Does music like what I want to know is what happened? Like this seems like I feel like I'm looking at like I looked at the Ugly Baby and then it got like they didn't put makeup on like the Ugly Baby. They just like reinvented it.
Yeah, they threw it out. They kept the model, a little bit of the iconography. They put some red paint on everything. Bam, fine. Yeah, it's again red.
Yeah, I see that, but but not just that. Like the way the characters interact, like I'm wondering what happened between them. Like what kind of feedback they got to just drastic. Because like not only is he like personable, he also like he does like kind of like this protocol thing. Like he's more of a captain, I'd have to say. Like you get right out of the, like that whole like gesture and how he's kind of interacting with people. You get that he's like a leader of men or a leader of people.
He's a lot more emotional, whereas Pike was a lot more buttoned up. So he's more of a person and less of a. I mean, for all that I talk about Starfleet captains being moral exemplars, Kirk is a people too.
Yeah, he's certainly a people. What's the deal with like when I was watching this, I was trying to figure out like what the deal was with Spock's eyebrows, because I've seen like pictures
really
of
less ferocious over the decades.
Yeah, well they just like it's almost like that's how he styles his hair. Like he doesn't style hair, he styles his eyebrows. Like it's like his one kind of nod to human vanity is how he changes his eyebrows over the years.
Yeah. I do like this. They have all the department heads here. Now you'll notice they tell you what everyone does, right?
Yeah.
Not Tainer, is it?
Tainer?
Kirk never knows anyone's names. The blonde, I forget her name. No, it's a running thing. He forgets because there's 400 whole people.
Yeah,
It's just so crazy. There's so many. And actually, Picard. I think they play on that joke a little bit later with Picard too. Of course, he's got 1,000-something folks on the ship plus kid.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, you can see each person here is like a division head, right? And they do like a little introduction bit. So you got her, who I think does psychology.
Yeah.
Study Scotty in the back.
Yep.
There are no red shirts yet. You can see you have green and then tan, and they turn, I think, the tan shirts into green, and then the green shirts into red. Anyway.
Who's the old dude?
The old dude's the doctor for this episode.
Oh, okay. So he gets replaced. Because I'm wondering, like, if these are all department heads, then where the f*** is Scotty? But okay, so he's pre-Scotty. He's proto-Scotty.
No.
He's not Scotty McCoy. Sorry.
Yeah, he's proto-McCoy. Yeah. So you see, they definitely did want to go with someone older, and DeForest Kelley was the oldest guy on the cast at that point in time.
Okay.
And then of course you have Sulu, and they never mention it. Like the plot starts midway through these introductions, so they never mention it. But I believe, and this isn't Chris. I believe Sulu is head of the math department. Because he's here.
Okay.
Yeah. So
as racist as that is, I mean it's the 70s, so I'm definitely not hand waving, but at the same time there's a context here.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see like not so much a math department, but kind of like navigation being heavily math focused, considering the 3D nature of space and like theoretical wormholes, blah 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 blah. And you can't expect the engineering department to like shoulder all that burden.
No, that's what Spock is for. But
Spock does all technical things.
He does all number things.
So is Zulu just a backup? He's like, hey, I'm kind of like I'm overloaded with all this math stuff. Can you kind of fill in for a little bit? Run some numbers.
But Sulu, he has one line in this thing. I think it comes later, where he basically says the math checks out. Something his power is growing exponentially. So it's like basically everyone just gives him data, and he's like, yeah, it's exponential. Is it not exponential?
Like no one knows what an exponential distribution looks like.
Yeah, right. Sulu has to do all that. So, and again, like that's the one line he has is about the math. I'm like,
he's so young. Like he looks really like if you look too, he's like thin. Like he's got like that shirt is a little baggy on him.
Dude, they're
I wonder if like Zulu ever now like watches like this, like if he ever wants to reminisce.
Yeah, they talk about the 2009 reboot, right? Where everyone they cast them all young and sexy, but everyone here is
like sexy. They're young and sexy, dude. Like
even McCoy's pretty. He's got like crazy eyes. So no, they're all pretty hot. I mean, if Scotty's your type, I'm sure Scotty's the type for someone. But
yeah. I mean, like, I would say he's more of a European flavor of hot. I would say, but yeah, like Shatner. I mean, like, wasn't he like in magazines as kind of like a Playboy or a something?
I don't know. It's possible. He's
I know he was like a bodybuilder or something. Like I remember a picture of him with his shirt off, and it was in like a magazine of some type. I don't know if that was like a Playgirl or if it was like a hey, look at me bodybuilding or what have you. This is so weird.
Yeah, this is all remastered, like in the original.
No, not that. Like him like reaching for her hand. Like I didn't get that. Like I'm like okay, you're supposed to be like an officer, so deal with it. And then he's like, yeah, let's hold hands. Yeah, this would be cool.
it's Star Trek. They're all like this.
I guess it's kind of a nod to his like extrasensory perception, like his foreshadowing that he's
a sensitive as well. Scotty and what's her name are holding hands. That is weird.
Say again?
Even the background, Scotty and Blondie there are holding hands.
I don't understand. I mean, I get like they're going into some wacky crap and they don't know what's going to happen. But I am kind of wondering, like, why I assume he reached for her hand because he could, like, sense her unease and he was trying to comfort her. Because later you find out he has, like, he's an ESP sensitive.
Yeah. I think it might just be implying that he has a human connection with her, because we see Gary Mitchell here. This is it. This is everything for Gary Mitchell. He's going to wake up in a hospital bed. He's going to be okay, and then he's going to become like a crazy godlike entity. So we have to like him as a human being, and that's why they have that really great scene in the turbo lift, where he's like, "How's it going?" From a cinematic thing, I could definitely see that. I'm just wondering, like, if the logic from like the justifying it in the story was like a foreshadowing, saying, "Hey, look, this guy like has ESP," and so like why would they be holding hands other than, like, what's the motivation to hold hands? They could have a relationship. I mean, yeah, he is a playboy. See, look, Spock and Kirk are holding things now, so obviously a relationship. Fair enough. So that is the counter joke I'm going to be making for the next 70 episodes or so. Not in any way to diminish it or to legitimize the relationship, but because the Spock-Kirk dynamic's interesting. What broke? Did he drop his glass coffee mug? I don't know exactly. They need a little. Okay, so so his eyes, like the big close, like in, I don't know if that close-up was in the original or not. It did kind of look like a remastered thing. Well, it wasn't very good quality, but I think that might be a function of the time. So, making a note that you see, like, oh, look, his eyes are wacky. And I'm gonna comment back on that when we get into the hospital, because I have some things that are frustrating about that whole scene. So yeah, I remember you mentioning, like, in the pilot how, like, if the ship has trouble, like, consoles break, like consoles just starts, like, sparking, everyone shakes, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting. Mitchell, marked ability, well above average. She has is it just me or she has kind of a swagger? She reminds me of someone, I just can't place it. She's a really interesting character, right? There's a female who's a central part of this plot. Yeah. Who manages to bridge at the end, crazy godlike people and then regular people. Yeah, and that's another thing that I kind of wanted to ask. Like, you'd mentioned the pilot, like, hey, what was it? What did they call it? Like, they wanted a nice, well-rounded cast or something, and that was basically a whole bunch of white dudes. Like, so a sensible cast, I think it was. Yeah, sensible cast. So then, in the second pilot, which I imagine is the second thing that they ever did with Star Trek. Yep. I'm seeing lots of women. I'm seeing Asians. I'm like different genders. 2 black dudes, which is getting mind blowing. Yeah, and different ethnicities as well. Yeah. And so I'm wondering, like, what changed with respect to that. Once again, you see here, look, his eyes are wide open, like he's doing this kind of weird, like, I'm reading, not reading, and then, like, when we get in, like, when we start talking, it's either this scene or the next one. He has this weird, like, his lids are, like, half closed the whole time. I don't know if it's a camera angle thing or what. Yeah. Like, I don't know what this is supposed to be. It's like, okay, yeah, look, he's, like, squinting, like, he's smiling, okay, it's fine. No, he's not smiling anymore. Well, they can't do it CGI, so these are practical effects. Well, no, that's fine, but why aren't his eyes open? Like, that's the practical effect. Open your eyes. Like, look, he's squinting again. Like, dude, keep your eyes open. Like, super open. If the effect is good, if he can physically keep his eyes open for that, if they can color his whole eyes, I mean... Well, no, my point is that if you're gonna, like, this is supposed to tell you the character's otherworldliness, his non-humanness now. It's supposed to accentuate that. And so, he doesn't, like I say, he's doing it good right here. And then he starts kind of squinting his eyes again. Like, if I was a director, I was like, listen, motherfucker, like,
you need to keep your eyes open. That's the whole point of you having lenses in them.
Yeah.
But in this scene and then another scene, he does like a lot of squinting that you're thinking, or like looking down, and it's like...
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is that it might actually be possible for him to do 5 or 10 takes, good takes, if he closes his eyes. Because these are prosthetics that he's putting on his eyes, specifically. So they might be uncomfortable. He may not be able to see that well. They may actually cause some burning.
But so, that's just being an actor. Deal with it.
Yeah. And then there are other points where maybe there was a day. I didn't see anything about the prosthetics. I didn't look for them specifically. But it may have just been harder to do. They may have had a different set of prosthetics one day, better ones later, etc., etc.
I can definitely imagine them being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I just think that if you're gonna, like they could have done a take and tried it, and if it didn't work from a scene point of view, saying, hey, look, if you're having trouble getting your eyes open, then we're just gonna ditch it and find something else, like maybe some burning around your eyes or something like that, like veins or what have you. But they kind of go with it. Like if he had trouble doing it, then I don't see the point in keeping the effect.
Yeah, the Tin Man got cancer from his makeup, right? Like it's.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, consider the makeup effects for the Wizard of Oz, dude. That stuff was insane, especially for the time.
Yeah.
You go with what you have, and I think the eyes is the most impressive thing they could do for this, and I think one of those reasons is because it is so challenging. So, I mean, you know, knock it if you got to knock it. If it's not a convincing effect, if it's not an effect that draws you in, I mean,
I like the looking into the I see you looking at.
That's good. And remember this.
Really good.
There's so many tropes that Trek codified. I don't want to just attribute everything to them, but this is definitely
like the otherworldly being kind of knowing things when it shouldn't know things.
Just the whole looking at the camera trope. A lot of them do that. I know someone's watching there. So, and they also mentioned a little earlier, Lieutenant Kirk is a leg on books. You were in his class. It was really difficult.
Did they do that earlier, or is that mentioning later? I thought that scene's about to come up.
Nope, we passed it.
Oh, we just passed me going on by the side. This is it. This is the scene that was frustrating me.
Okay.
It wasn't the other scene. Like he does it a little bit, but this one, he does. This entire scene is almost with his eyes closed.
Yeah, I never questioned it. It always seemed like he's contemplative, and he's
It does look like his eyes might be a little red, like if you're really close to the rims of his eyelids.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this, like, hey, look, I can with your machines kind of gig.
Yeah.
And like how he even kills himself to fuck with her. Like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
So,
anyway.
Yeah.
Because there's a simplified version of movie Kirk, right? That's rule breaking and he doesn't care about things and he's a man's man and this is one of the clearest bits where somebody who knows Kirk really well, is like, nah, he's a huge nerd. I mean, we're friends and everything, but you know, such a nerd. But he's a passionate nerd. He's an intuitive nerd.
Yeah, see, I definitely remember that scene where he's talking about books and that kind of jazz, but I just knowing Kirk's reputation preceding me watching this that's a hard sell in my mind.
Yeah.
It was hard for me it wasn't very convincing.
But you'll see it. What's that?
He's touching his mouth I don't know why.
He's trying to escape his awful meat body.
Maybe.
But again, every time we see Kirk with a female, there's a context to it. And there's Kirk who talks about things like art and literature and who quotes Milton.
Yeah,
it's
that makes sense. Yeah.
Different Kirk, very different person. And shoot, where am I going with that?
traversing those two kind of personality traits, like being kind of knowledgeable and also being cavalier, is probably hard.
I don't know, cavalier. I can definitely see where Kirk does beat things with a smile and a wink. He's clever. He's one step ahead, and a lot of that is brain power. A lot of that is I realize things are going badly, so I have a way out. There's also how he accepts things and he kind of rolls with it. But I've seen this man yell computers to death. He's passionate.
I'm really excited about seeing that one. Like, because I mean, we had that joke in high school, right? Where it's like, like I just talked to Kirk. Like I can't remember who started it. If it was you or Terry, talking about Kirking the computers or talking them to death or something.
The man does. So anyway, I forget so much. Oh, I was gonna say something about Kirk being a nerd, but I completely forget. So, Mitchell. That's one reason people were so angry about the fake out with Benedict Cumberbatch in the 2013 movie, because they faked it. Instead of saying, "Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be Khan," they're like, "Oh, he's going to be somebody. Could be Gary Mitchell." And folks thought they were going to do a reprise of this. We'd get to see a close friend of Kirk, Gary Mitchell.
Yeah.
Because we never see Gary Mitchell again. I think there's an X-Men crossover comic that mentions Gary Mitchell was a mutant or something. Not. But we don't really get to. So I would be interested in seeing more Gary Mitchell. And the reboot movies are always stronger the more they do their own thing. So I was going forward to seeing that because there's so much that's. Because Gary Mitchell's a good guy here, and you go from good guy Gary Mitchell to monstrous, scary tyrant so quickly, you never really get to know the guy.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would have humanized Kirk to like have more, and they did do that kind of, where Kirk and like Spock, like they kind of like touched a little bit on his like, not college days, I'm thinking academy days, I guess.
Yeah.
Like in the movie.
Yeah.
The relaunch, 2013 relaunch.
Yeah. 2009 relaunch. It was the sequel in 2013.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah. I liked how he delivered that line because it was just kind of funny. Like, I'm not joking, Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the whole tyrant gig, but
yeah, and that's. I think some of that's a little bit of acting and a little bit of phraseology from the 60s because I do excuse that. I do say, hey, look, this sounds a little weird. This is a little strange. Yeah. But it was a different time. But when it comes to Sulu being the head of the math department, I think you understand that context because he's in this scene. I think it's a good segue back where that's how things were, and I don't think we should say, "Hey, look, that's fucked up." It's not okay because it was back then. I mean, people knew better. People were making Star Trek back then. People knew what was up back then. It's like. People say, hey, look, slavery was just a thing at the time. It's like, well, a lot of people knew it was wrong. It doesn't make it okay.
I usually kind of like, I hand wave just because it's a contentious issue, and it's one of those issues that if you talk about it in kind of a public eye, there's always going to be some people who agree, some people who disagree, and you can't have all of those multiple conversations. And so you kind of say your piece, hey, that's jacked up, and then say, I mean, there's nothing we can do about it after that.
If you say, "Oh, look, it was a different time," it reads a lot like an excuse, and that's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of that either. I just don't. I guess I don't know how to traverse like this is fucked up. There's some context here as far as like it being acceptable, even though it wasn't okay. But then, without going into this long exposition about like racial concerns in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
You know, like, I guess there's no small way to, like, hey, this is fucked up, but not unexpected.
Yeah.
I do like, the other thing, too, I think back in those days, being Irish was considered, I mean, you were a minority, but it was like it was something akin to being,
you want the mathematics of this? Or it's increasing geometrically. I'm sorry. Use pennies.
I like how he explains it.
Yeah.
You're a millionaire tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's a pretty concise explanation in a way that people can understand.
Oh yeah, definitely. Capitalism, baby.
Her discussion of, hey, Superman could be a good thing is interesting because that's a recurring motif. Obviously, Star Trek touched on it later, but it's a recurring motif in science fiction. What's that?
The whole eugenics thing?
Yeah. There was this space seed, I think, is in season 1, I guess. Season 1 or 2. So
the what? The space what?
Space seed. It's
seed.
It's the one with Khan. It's the one where you meet Khan for the first time.
Okay.
So, because Star Trek 2 is actually a riff on an episode of classic Star Trek. So.
Okay. He's like, you heard the mathematics of it. It's like you heard the Asian. There's no way out of this.
Yeah. We were a math department.
Like, I mean, I guess, yeah.
And here's where they discuss the stakes, and they reprise their argument again: passion versus logic.
Yeah. I mean, like, there are sometimes his like mechanism of talking, like what he's doing now, is interesting, and sometimes I don't feel like it works. Like,
what, Kirk?
Yeah, like his just kind of mode of speech. There's sometimes it's brilliant, and sometimes it's like, you don't need these pauses, dude. Like, come on.
I think I mentioned Kirk being passionate earlier, and that's my one defense of Shatner, which I'm sure I'll forget when I've said this, and I'll repeat it again. But one of the ways I think he tries to convey that passion is by getting so emotional that he has to stop himself midway through to rein it in, and then he keeps going.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. It's just kind of like this. When you're keeping track of a conversation like that, it's like, almost like this roller coaster ride, and you're like, I'm getting car sick, man. Okay, can we slow down a little bit? Just tap the brakes.
Yeah.
Good enough to come to full stop.
I love Captain's Log. You mentioned the Captain's Logs earlier.
Yeah.
And this is the beginning of the proud tradition of doing really natural dialogue.
Yeah, and like I like how like later on he's talking about like he's making notes about giving commendations. Like I love that. Like it brings you back to, hey, this is a military thing. Like it brings you back to, this is just a whole bunch of people on a boat in space. There are a bunch of military people on a boat in space.
Yeah. Well, pseudo-military. Oh God, I love this. This starts a long tradition of, because Star Trek's great, obviously, but there's some things that are ridiculous about it.
Okay.
And the gold-painted styrofoam cup with the Federation logo on it, floating on a piece of string to Gary Mitchell, is one of the things.
Really? I didn't know that.
What's that? Well, no, you mean it's not a trope. Like people don't reference it.
Oh,
but when you look at it, you're like, yep, Star Trek had these moments as well. So it's great because it's still white on the inside because it's still drinking.
Yeah, and like you kind of get this flimsiness of it.
Yeah.
Even though like he's holding it with two hands, which is kind of weird.
So, but again, the drama works. So
I do like how they introduce, like, so this, and to kind of tie back to the opening scene, this whole episode is a lot like chess. Like right now, the two kind of sides are in chess you would call the mid game, and it's very meta. Like right here, this scene is very meta because, like he says, some people think I'm a monster because they had that conversation in the war room before, and then he's like, "Are you reading my thoughts?" Like, "Hey, what are you trying to pull here?" Kind of thing. Like it's many levels of what's going on in this interaction, and it's pretty neat.
Yeah. And it still has the surface there.
Yeah.
Because you need the surface or people just don't care.
Yeah.
So you have him using lightning hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I was wondering, like, what is that supposed to do? Although I would have loved it if like I mean, I know they couldn't have done it, but it would have been great if like he just kind of sort of levitating off and like just sort of floating away instead of walking.
Yeah. Yeah, the first case where Star Trek uses a sedative to disable somebody. That becomes a classic.
Through through a shirt, no less.
Oh no, that shirts mean nothing. Double sedative.
I can find a vein. I can find a vein, and I don't even need.
Yeah. Well,
I'll just hit you in your shoulder. Like, this is weird.
I love that he can stand up because how else do the transporters work if he's knocked out?
Yeah. That is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like, it is kind of a weird thing. I didn't think about it until you just mentioned it. Yeah. That it technically doesn't work, but he's supposed to be knocked out anyway. Like, they're like trying to balance him like upright.
Yeah.
When all logic says that he should have fell.
Oh, he's doing the mouth thing again. That is
What?
weird,
Yeah.
man.
I don't get it. He does it frequently, and it freaks me out.
Yeah. You see this matte painting later, so some good matte painting.
It's I mean, that's interesting. Like I mean, they didn't necessarily sell the whole I mean, not in the first or the second one. Like there is a federation. Like there is this kind of organization that's powering all of this. But I guess they did what they could for the time.
They talk about other ships and things. They still have the classic phasers from the first pilot. They don't have the classic black.
Man, I can't wait. So there's this.
Oh, force fields, man, force fields.
Yeah.
Introduce force field.
There's another part that I can't wait, but I'm not going to talk about it right now.
So just jump in, but they have a trope like the past 5 years of movies. The villain gets himself captured. He goes behind glass, and they have the big scene, right?
Yep.
I can't claim Star Trek started it. Mission Impossible may have done something like this too. But basically, he's restrained. You understand he's restrained. He's going to attack the force field in a minute, so the audience understands that.
Yep.
And then, but he can still act fully through this plane.
Yep.
And we understand that he's restrained. The budget restrictions are exactly zero, other than some fucking track lighting. So, again, another really cool idea.
Yeah, like it's kind of making the most out of like a situation, I guess.
Yep. And that's why they have transporters again, because shuttle sequences were expensive.
That was pretty ingenious, in all fairness. Like the notion of a transporter, like if you were going to kind of do this long term, I don't know exactly how long they were planning, but if they were planning long term and that was kind of how they introduced a transporter, then that was pretty ingenious in my opinion.
Yeah. Again, you know I bitch about people who call Star Trek like prescient in its technology, when a lot of it is just because it's cost efficient to get the story point across.
Yes. Gary, no, don't do it, Gary. Yeah, you can actually keep them open now.
And then we
oh, now we're back. Back to squinty eyes.
And we understand another important story point here. So.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like I kind of feel like he's hamming it up just a little bit. Like not a lot, but he's just like I'm just taking in all the screen time. I'm just soaking it in. But the facial expressions on Kirk too are pretty good. He does a lot of. I would say Shatner is very good. Like as much as like people give him for like his verbal way of like delivering lines in such a way, he's actually really good like physical actor. I wouldn't be surprised if he had any stage training at some point.
Yeah, no, he's. Sorry, my favorite.
Yeah, I love that. It's like Spock just walks in with BFG, and then Kirk's like, "Well," because and all he had to go on was like, "Oh, he had trouble with like the force field." He's like, "Well, we need more weapons." I loved it. I love like because he's just such a like you kind of like as being the logical guy. Like early on, you think he's just kind of like this nerd that has all the facts in his head, right? And he rounds that corner with his huge gun on his hip. Like, no, this dude will do literally whatever it takes.
Yeah, it brings up an interesting point that I think don't know if they cover it in the series itself. They definitely cover it in it's a book written by Diane Duane called Spock's World, where they're like, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, lots of things are really logical. Crime's pretty logical. Violence is pretty logical.
Yep.
Logic alone is not enough to sustain Vulcan culture. It has to be accompanied with a very rigid ethos.
Uh-huh.
And so you tend to think, oh, look, logic, pacifist. Because Spock is actually a vegetarian as well.
Yep.
The Vulcans themselves are pacifists. But Spock, one, Spock isn't like other Vulcans. And two, yeah, he lends himself to being more hardcore than you would imagine. So,
and that, like, part of me is, when I first saw that, I just couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for a good, like, 10 minutes, just because it's akin to, like, some computer, like, in my mind, like a computer nerd walking around with, like, a rocket launcher.
Yeah. Spock gets it done. Never doubt that. Spock gets it done.
Yeah, dude.
Like the whole transition. Nothing.
I like this. I like how they did this, like, because, like, I was wondering, like, okay, he's got to be doing something. Like, what are they going to be doing about,
Yeah.
And then here we go. Like, oh, I'm strangling a dude that you were going to blow me up with.
Yeah. Again, you mentioned the chess analogy. I think that's really apt here.
Yep.
Have his temples grade over the course of the episode?
Rook 4 to Bishop 3. What?
Yeah. Have his temples grade over the course of the episode?
Yeah, actually, that's the point. I also think Spock might be a little greener. Just be like the scene, but now we have different electricity that knocks you out.
Yeah.
At first, when I saw this, like, I thought he was, like, controlling her, and then, like, I will make you a god too, like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they kind of point out, like, no, they were both, like, ESP guys, and she just was maybe a little bit less ESP than him, actually.
Yep, well established. It's good. It's a good twist. Because at this point, you're, like, so worried about Gary fucking Mitchell.
Yeah,
Because he seems like he's enough, you know? And then you're like, double? You can't do double.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and see, this says, I mean, and there's so many levels kind of going on with just this story. I like this too. Like, so Doctor just happens to wake up Kirk first, which I guess, like, or he just happened to wake up. All he did was just, like, touch him. But I like how when Kirk's like off, he's like, don't wake him up until after I'm gone. Like, because this happens on the heels of, like, Spock, like, showing up with a big gun, right? Like, so he's like, don't give him the pole. Well,
because Spock was trying to warn him. And he doesn't want Spock to be in danger. He has to atone. Kirk has to atone for his own message.
Well, and and in addition, it shows how knowledgeable, like, opening scene, you kind of get this whole, like Spock is trying to figure out Kirk, but it's both ways. Like, Kirk kind of is trying to know as much as he can about Spock, and this is kind of showing, like, the ground he's covered. He's like, no, I know he's going to fucking come after me or not let me go, so, you know, you're a reasonable person that's not a Vulcan. Keep him unconscious for a bit.
Yeah. Also, it is sad that the guy who died, the first person to get just wrecked in Star Trek, was not a red shirt.
Yeah.
Damn shame.
It is a damn shame.
of all the Star Trek tropes that could have been in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot in this first episode. There is,
good tropes.
And I don't know if I like the term trope, because I guess I was first introduced to it in, like, kind of a pejorative manner, and so but I get that it's just kind of like it's a neutral term.
Yeah. It's a set of tools, and again, for most Star Trek tropes, I either, laugh at them to. I mean, the trope of Star Trek not doing Native Americans well is a trope that's sort of bad for Star Trek reasons, but I think the tropes can sort of they point to a pattern of behavior where you say, hey, look, this is something these people keep doing. Either it's a good tool to use because it effectively does something, or it's a bad tool because
of reasons.
Yeah, it's a pattern of behavior which implies a certain set of values or thought.
I thought maybe his graying temples were like maybe it had something to do with like the lighting and the set being like super gray. But we're in a color set and you can see him. So yeah, I definitely think that his temples are getting grayer. Like they might have been able to do this whole like, hey, you're being a god but you're aging kind of thing and you can't stop time stuff.
That would have been an interesting twist on it.
Yeah.
But again, the problem would have sorted itself out in that case.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable.
This is just kind of funny. Like, oops. Like this big boulder that probably weighs 500 pounds. I just happened to knock it over without near it.
Yeah. I'd lay it at the feet of Star Trek, but I'm sure there were big boulders on Western sets.
Yeah. Before. Yeah. I think that was a categorically Western thing to have like rock slides and shit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's why these rocks look so great. You just be like, no, they'd have to be gray instead of tan. Just go back. We're in an alien world. The rocks are gray now.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out what fruit
from Subway. Oh no, it's a fruit. Yeah, you're right.
Subway.
It looked like a 6-incher.
Yeah. They went into the future. I guess it's like a pomegranate because like of the seeds.
Space pomegranate.
Space pomegranate. I don't know. I was trying to figure this out, like what they use.
Oh, what they use.
And like, I get this sense that in reality they're like maybe 10 feet away. But like, I think in the scene you're supposed to think that like he can't see them and they understand where he is.
Yeah, Kirk is only redoubt there.
But I'm pretty sure they're only like,
right there.
So I don't know exactly if they're obfuscating themselves or what.
Yeah, I think they're just. We don't know. Kirk doesn't know, and they're ahead of him again. This is a chess game where he's completely outmatched. Yeah. So, and his idea here is to appeal to her.
Yeah. This is his Hail Mary. Like this right here is kind of his Hail Mary, his gambit that pays off in the end. Which is right back to the chess game where he's playing with Spock. He's like, "That's not a logical move, you jerk."
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this. Well, Mitchell learned. Yeah, like he's kind of like this ethical, emotional kind of appeal to like, yes, you can have all this progress, but you need to progress for progress' sake isn't necessarily good. You also have to temper it with kind of the wisdom and the mistakes that you make.
Yeah, there are no shortcuts. Is definitely a lesson of early Star Trek.
Yeah, I like that. I like that because I feel like even like today's world, I feel like there's this notion of not only are there shortcuts, you're a weirdo not to use them. This notion of just like sometimes doing things the old way is good because you kind of get reacquainted with like these human mistakes. Maybe some wisdom.
It is good to make the mistakes, but life's the journey, not the destination. Yeah. It's what you learn on the way. It's not necessarily you can do it. Sorry, I'm listing cliches because there's like a Star Trek related cliche that I can't bring to mind right now. Right, there it is. It's the technology, as he whisks the phaser rifle away, that technology won't save us. Is going to be us, people, who save us.
Yeah.
Especially taking place as this did during the Cold War. Technology becomes more destructive. And if we are not wise enough, if we are not good enough, it will destroy us. And a lot of Star Trek takes place against a really apocalyptic background, where if we don't learn how to use things wisely, we're fucked.
I like this. I like this iconic like this is such a theatrical thing. Like, hey, you're about to die. Here's a grave. Like, it's one of my favorite kind of things to do. Like, if you're like outmatched, it's like, hey, I've politely like procured a grave for you.
Yeah.
Like
Chekhov's rock slide. Until we actually get actual Chekhov, I'm just gonna check off things once per episode.
So who was Chekhov again?
Chekhov is the Russian Helmsman. He's added in season 2 because he's like young. He's got like the Beatles hair. He's like, oh, Soviet Russia, you know.
Okay.
You will meet him and then immediately get his character.
Okay.
And he's great. So
I like this right here, where like they're kind of like God forcing like him to pray. Like this is kind of an interesting gig. I mean, it's done different ways, but this is a decidedly Catholic bent, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Like even in Batman is like what is it? What did he say? Like he's like, God save me or God help me, and he's like, pray to me. Like I don't know where I'm going with it.
It's interesting note, in the final episode of Deep Space Nine, you get a very similar scene. So, someone gets godlike power, they force someone to kneel before them.
Yeah.
I think the difference is that Cisco did like a lot of crunches. So.
Yeah. I like how she's like, don't fight me. I'm just kind of testing out these sparkly things.
Yeah.
Like she the way her hand moves was almost kind of like, oh, I'm just testing it out.
Yeah.
But then obviously they have a power, like they fight each other with this power.
Yeah. He punches him.
See, yeah, like this is like I'm like, if you said hurry, I would at least sacrifice a few seconds to glance
I
at
love
the
sloppy karate chops.
Yeah, the karate. Judo throw is pretty good, but the karate chops are like, really, guy?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, it's right there. Get the rifle. It's right there.
The ripped shirt.
Yeah. Classic. This is pretty iconic, right? Like I feel like I've seen Kirk with like this type of battle damage often.
Yeah, it happens. It is so much a trope that sorry. It's so much a trope that even Galaxy Quest went into it, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So,
I like the smashing with a rock. And I'm like, dude, you had a rifle. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get this is like the final showdown or whatever, but in my mind, it's just like, run to the gun, pull the trigger, this could be all over. You might even be able to save the woman.
Yeah.
A stunt double right there.
Oh, God, all over the place. I like especially the rocks.
Yeah.
Because rocks, people fighting in the dirt with rocks, I mean, that's caveman stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't even shoot him. He shoots the... I mean, I get like, this grave is really for you, but still, like...
Narratively, I like it. So, and there's no telling what he was aiming for. He may have had the phaser set to ironic.
That is the only plausible explanation. Well, I couldn't save you because I completely forgot about this gun over here. I mean, we could have totally beamed like some medics and hopefully that could have done some things, but let's be real, you're going to be a god anyway, so I probably have to shoot you. So
yeah, you know, it's a pretty clean ending for us.
Yep.
It's a lot of trouble.
I kind of liked her. Like, I really wish they kind of kept her around. I liked her character.
I like pretty much everyone in this episode.
Yeah.
You know, if they hadn't gone mad and become gods. You see, they still have the clear communicators from the original pilot.
Yeah, and but he's using it like a walkie-talkie. Like it's not like this thing on a dresser that you touch ever so gingerly.
Mm. So. But yeah, it's the detail on that's still so weird, but
interesting.
Yeah.
Here we go. See, this is believable battle damage, right? Like he's like, look, he's.
Mm.
See, I like this protocol, this procedure.
And it's also a good wrap up because even though these people both went crazy and we're gonna run off and maybe enslave humanity or whatever, he's like, hey, they're good folks.
Yeah.
There's no reason to hate them for it. This isn't personal. There's no malice here.
And I like how they kind of make this distinction between like the service record and the actual events, because that is really the case. Like history is written, but humans do things, and that isn't recorded. So it makes this little distinction that I think is pleasant to be reminded of.
There's something to be said about a knowing mythology, historical mythology, if you would. But
James Goldstone.
you see, this wasn't quite written by Gene Roddenberry. So I think he drafted 3 scripts for this.
Okay.
Mud's Women, and then this one, obviously, and then another one. I forget what the other one was. The other 2 were not that strong. Mud's Women is okay. It's just not really super great. But yeah. So that was where No Man Has Gone Before. Let me see what's going on next week.
Mantrap?
Ah, boy, Mantrap sounds about right. Oh, the Corbomite Maneuver, another classic.
Oh wow, that's like we're jumping from 5 to 11.
Well, remember, we're watching them in production order, not air order.
Interesting.
So you sort them by air date, that changes. Yeah, well, that's what happened with Firefly. So.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I definitely rather things in chronological order.
The Corbomite Maneuver, Mud's Women, The Enemy Within, those are all better than the stuff that's listed, than the Mantrap, better than Charlie X. Trust me, we're going to start strong.
The Menagerie looks like a 2-parter. So that's interesting.
It is a 2-parter, and we will explain that later.